Hello and welcome to Unmasking the Trans Movement with Jon Uhler. I'm your host, Brad Wylder. Great to have you on board today. We've got a great show planned. It's our first show, and we're going to bring in the boss himself, Mr. Jon Uhler, who's going to really help us understand unmasking this trans movement that is happening not only in North America and the West, but also globally and around the world. Jon, great to have you on the show. I wanted to give a little bit of background about who you are and what you are and how you came to really create all of this platform for, I guess, an educational side of things. But I'm going to let you get into that in just a minute. Now, Jon, you come with a ton of experience. You're a professional therapist who's worked with survivors, troubled teens along the way, as well as sex predators for over 30 years in the jail system down in the United States of America. Your knowledge is extensive. You provide some great insight. And not only that, but you also bring with you some fantastic guests who are going to be part of this program. And, I'm excited. I know that our viewers are going to be excited as well. Therapy usually costs a lot of money, and therapy isn't readily available. And that's one of the issues we find throughout North America is more mental health is needed to help people get through a lot of the situations that they deal with. So as we go forward, you're going to be bringing some of those clinical therapists to the table. It's not going to cost any money in that regard, at least for some of the advice. And it's really going to open the door for people to start asking questions themselves and empowering them to get into the mood and the groove of we're not the victims here. We're actually going to have to just stand up to the bullies. Jon, let's jump right in. So let's talk about your past, your present, and your future. Where have you been, and what's been going on?
Well, Brad, I'm so appreciative that you are willing to join with me. This is truly a team endeavor, and could not do this without you. I have tried, and I may be successful in my own right with some of the podcasting, but I understand the technical end of things, and with you and your skills and myself, with my background, I believe we're going to make a difference. We are here to help empower parents, to empower good people that are concerned about what is really the greatest threat, in my estimation, to young people. It is sweeping the globe, certainly the Western world. The threat that we're talking about is the trans movement. It has been around now long enough to where people think this is real. Oh, it's real. It's a very real threat. But they have been told and sold a lie to where now most people assume what they're being told is, as it were, gospel truth, and it is not.
Yeah.
So we are very concerned, and this is a great place right at the beginning of our program to say what we are or what we are not, or what we are for and what we're not for.
Right. That's a good place to start, actually, Jon, is exactly that. And there's a lot of confusion these days as to, what people perceive the opposition of this movement really being about. There are individuals out there who are going out there for the wrong reason in opposition to this movement. And then we have individuals who have the right mind frame set to be able to go out there and have, logical conversations and discussions with the trans movement and ultimately express their concerns in a way that isn't compelling, aggression and anger and frustration. Look, we both going to say this today at some point in this show, and I don't think that either one of us are against trans, lesbians, gays, bisexuals. What ultimately we're against is the fact that they're going after our kids, and that's where you've pushed the wrong button there. Do what you want as an adult, do what you want in the privacy of your own home. But bring it to my schools, our schools, bring it to our churches, bring it to our families, destroy the core values, that's where we have to step in. And what we're fighting for is something different than just calling somebody a pedophile or somebody a groomer or any of those words that are more aggressive and more belligerent without the real education behind it to even say those things. So where do you stand on that situation?
And well said, Brett. We are not anti-anything in the sense that we're not anti any group of people. We are for people, and that's why we're here. We are for the protection of women and children. That is what Unmasking the Trans Movement is all about, because it is targeting the most vulnerable among us. And as a therapist, as a man, as an individual, as a father, my kids are grown, I am compelled to speak. We are compelled to speak, and hopefully that will be something that we will also be able to convey, that we have a worldwide situation that has come about that is targeting, and it is not passive. This is the most dangerous thing that has come down the pike. It is amazingly well funded. And what is it? It is a movement, so-called. Really, it's an orchestrated attempt to gain access, and I've said this before, and it really captures the essence of this, that there are special interests, so-called, we'll call them special interests, that are feeding off of, or intending to feed off, and this will be graphic, but intending to feed off the carcasses of our kids. They're taking advantage of kids, and they're doing so by misinformation, spreading disinformation, these special interests. We would like to believe that people ultimately will care about women and children, but human nature, the human heart, has not changed over the years. The heart of a Nazi has not changed. We think that ended in World War II. What is the heart of a Nazi? Someone that did not care about people and therefore used and abused people. A very callous and indifferent and sadistic in some cases. So we are concerned about protecting women and children against a movement that has been labeled the trans movement. We are not against any group of people. We are here to support and protect and defend those that are being targeted by this so-called movement that people now are familiar with the term, the trans movement. We're here to help educate people, adults, parents, as to what this really is all about. It is not what we are being sold, because it is leaving kids, at the end of the day, it's leaving them scarred and sterilized and emotionally and psychologically damaged, probably for the rest of their life.
Well, there's the medical aspect of this too. The doctors and the pharmaceutical companies will keep these kids under their control for the rest of their lives. Obviously, bottom surgery leaves a man with an open wound, is what I think it's been described as. And that open wound, no different than a paper cut on your hand. It takes a while to heal. And in that kind of a sensitive region of the body, I'm sure it doesn't heal quickly. I'm sure that it wants to reseal itself and close back up again. So to keep that open, to keep that whole process moving forward for somebody who's gone through bottom surgery, I believe that that healing process isn't just a short period of time. We're talking about years and years and possibly even more years than that. We know that skin is damaged and damageable. And that being said, tears, rips, things like that happen when a female's giving birth, as an example. And the same kind of thing would, I assume, happen with a man with a gaping wound like that. And that kind of, aggression going into that area would cause it to never really regenerate and heal itself up properly. So these doctors, from the medications of the antibiotics that they're going to give them to try to keep the infections away, to, trying to stop the bleeding that probably is going to happen along the way, to trying to keep that wound open that they want to keep open. It's mind-boggling to think that doctors are producing these kind of surgeries and allowing these children to have this done to them, to not really fully understand what the real outcome is in the long term. And I think the wool's being pulled over their eyes. And, that's where some of these guests going forward are going to be able to explain some of those issues and those topics, and have those discussions with us, how really the doctors that are pushing it, they're making a heck of a good buck on it. I'm just not sure exactly how much of a buck they're putting in their pocket. We say it's worth trillions. Those trillions of dollars, of course, going right into the coffers of not only the hospitals and the other, people that work there, but it'll go into that surgeon's pocket first and foremost. And, for $40,000, that poor kid is hooked with the medical system forever. There's no coming back from that for a boy, as an example.
Right. And then the numbers of young women that are being encouraged to end up submitting to or feeling as though they are consenting, which we will talk about that concept, because there is no consent without the ability to comprehend. And the one thing that the vast majority of virtually all these kids have is severe mental illness. These kids are being exploited. Parents are being exploited, because if you raise undue or unnecessary concern in the minds of parents, if you implant fear into people, into parents, then you are manipulating them. And that is part of what we will be addressing. We're going on this program, we will be featuring and platforming professionals, medical professionals, psychological professionals, people in the mental health field, including those that have been harmed and including parents. This is going to become a tremendous resource for parents and good people who want to protect their kids, push back against what is being pushed into schools. We will help people begin to connect the dots on a large macro scale about the special interests, so they can begin to understand the connection, for instance, between what's being pushed on society. We see these marches, Trans Lives Matter, the connection between that and the sexualization of kids in school, and those that would attempt to promote and legitimize prostitution, those that would attempt to push men into women's prisons and men into women's sports. And then the medicalization of what used to be a woman's world, which is pregnancy, which is what happens within her body. And then this very radical war against women. If you look at what's happened to J.K. Rowling and others, the deplatforming and then the threats. You have these men that are dressing in women's underwear and drag, yelling and screaming, shouting women down, saying, kill TERFs. The same men that are accessing women's private spaces, whether gyms or locker rooms, showers, rape shelters. This is extremely serious, and we need to help parents and good people become empowered enough to begin to understand what is behind all of this and how to connect the dots and to understand where this came from, how and why we can say boldly that this is a lie, this is a grand deception, this is a tremendous, world's greatest effort in my estimation as far as target marketing, but rebranding and reframing the minds of people, the minds of the public, to where now not only are most people afraid to address this issue, they've actually come to assume that what they've been told is true. So we're going to begin to help unmask the trans movement so that we can genuinely help those that need help, that are being sucked into what amounts to a cult-like system These kids that are being sucked in need help. They do not need sterilization or amputation. They need help, and the parents need support. And that is what we will be bringing to the table, to the airwaves, in our podcast and our program.
Fantastic. We've got some great guests lined up. We're going to have a ton of educational information, which is going to lead parents to being able to have some tough discussions with their own kids. The trendiness of this all needs to be aggressively attacked in a sense. And I don't mean aggressive in the sense of, put your fist up and that sort of thing. It's aggressive in the sense that the kids, the teenagers that are being caught up in this trendiness of this fad is tough for them to understand where their parents are. They've been led to believe that their parents are old and they don't know what they're talking about. And some parents, they're getting caught up in, well, I don't want to be that parent, so I'm going to be hip and trendy and cool and go along with my kid and just, ride this out and see where it goes. But the reality is there's a big time confusion there for that poor kid, and mom and dad are kind of steering their kid along that path to keep going rather than giving them the education that they need and the language that they need to be able to come out of it positively and understand that, and I'm going to say it, and it's two genders, and that's all we have. We have a male and we have a female.
That's right.
And,
exactly
if you want to fight that with me all day long, I'm happy to have that argument.
And we'll have them on our program.
Absolutely.
We'll have them on the program. Absolutely.
Well, Jon, it's been great talking with you today. I know your time is very limited, but continue the work you do because I know that you're helping a lot of people, and it's always a pleasure to have you on your own show. Thank you for entrusting me with being the guy that is going to facilitate some of this information along the way, and I will do you proud, my friend. I promise you that.
Brad, it's great to partner with you. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, sir. This is Unmasking the Trans Movement with Jon Uhler. I'm Brad Wylder, and we'll see you next time.